Hi everyone, this is Molly and I'm back with another astrology teaching video. I do these for each of the new moons and the full moons, and today we're going to talk about the upcoming Aries full moon, which is exact September 24th, 2018 at 10:52 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so that means it will be exact at a different time depending on your location on the planet. Now in these videos, I show you the conversations that are happening in the chart between all of the planets. And with every full moon, the emphasis is on the moon. So we're going to start there. And the moon is at 1 degree of Aries, 59 minutes. So we're going to round up and call that 2 degrees. And it is conjunct Chiron at 0 degrees of Aries and 2 minutes retrograde. So this right away sets up a very interesting energy, because the moon in Aries is about the self, your emotional needs that you want, that are about your own immediate gratification or desires. It can be impulsive, it can be very subjective and impatient, but ultimately the moon in Aries is meant to give you the courage to go for what you want, to understand that it's okay to feel what you feel and to have your own experience of something. This is the energy of self-leadership, honoring what feels right for you, what you need, what based on who you are right now, because Aries is self-identity. Who am I? Well, this is how I feel about myself. However, the Chiron influence brings in insecurity. It brings in doubts. There can be a lack of confidence. And it's a lack of confidence in the new parts of yourself that you're just meeting for the first time. And that's because these planets are at the very beginning of the zodiac. They're just getting started. They're just emerging. And so they're feeling their way. They're ready for the new adventure, the new start, the new beginning. It's a strong energy of initiation. But the Chiron energy brings in, can I create it? Can I go for it? Do I have the courage? So this full moon is asking you to assess the courage you have to honor what you need right now, and to understand that if you trust who you are, if you trust the journey you've been on, and you're open to new possibilities, you'll start to feel inspired and motivated at a whole new level. Now, this moon is very subjective, and it's opposing the Sun and Mercury, who are both in Libra. The Sun is at 1 degrees of Libra, 59 minutes, and Mercury is at 5 degrees of Libra and 18 minutes. And these are the energies of conversation, creations with other people, collaborations, cooperations, sharing, and working together. This is the energy of win-win. And the Mercury gives it more information, more tips, more things to talk about. It has an energy of discussion. So this is very objective. This is understanding the other side of the story, the other side of the relationship. So for all the ways you're understanding who you are now, and maybe questioning it a bit with that Chiron, you're looking at, well, let's step back, not take it personally, look at it from a detached lens and see, well, what do other people need? What are other people perhaps experiencing or processing? And can we talk it through and find something mutual, find something that's ultimately the win-win, which is what Libra energy is really like. Now, adding to this dynamic and even this tension is that all of these planets are receiving a square from Saturn at 2 degrees of Capricorn. Now in this chart, please don't mind the houses, because the houses will be different depending on the location, and they'll be different in your chart. So we're only talking about the planets and how they're conversing. So in this chart, we have Saturn, is at 2 degrees of Capricorn, 49 minutes, and the Saturn energy brings a stop. Let's assess. Let's look at the specifics. How is this going to happen? How is this going to work? It's not a risk taker. Aries is. The full moon in Aries is up for the new adventure, the new start. And Saturn can bring a damper to that and say, it's not going to work. That's my Saturn voice. It's not going to happen. It's not going to work. And it brings in that sense of a reality check for what you're creating or forming. And Saturn could be that person outside of you, such as a boss, a father figure, a manager, someone who is older with more wisdom or more experience, more years under their belt, and they say, I don't see how that's going to happen. I don't see how you can do that new thing. So you have to watch out for that, because you could take it personal emotionally, at an emotional level. And then Saturn is squaring the Libra planets that want to talk about things and discuss it, and says, well, let's sit down and talk about this and work it through. Saturn says, no, I don't want to talk about anything. I'll make an executive decision and I will do it by myself. I don't even need to work with other people. I don't need to collaborate. Saturn says, I'll just do it on my own. I know what it takes to get the job done. So it does bring a harder energy to relationships that want to work together and want to find equal connections and equal balance. Saturn doesn't have interest in that in Capricorn, doesn't have interest in equality. It's being the commander and running the show. This brings a slowdown to the full moon energies. So it's important to acknowledge that timing is at play. Even if you have come to understand new parts of yourself and you're ready for something to start, there's a sense of maybe it's not quite time yet. Now, the other energy we look at in this chart is Mars. And that's because Mars is the ruler of Aries. This full moon is in Aries, so that means the ruling planet is Mars. Mars is at 3 degrees of Aquarius. After going retrograde, Mars is back to where it was just about at the July 26th lunar eclipse. And Mars is a trigger energy. Mars is the energy of ready to go, let's set things on fire. And in Aquarius, it's about getting the new idea going, the new vision, the new direction, the new dream. He activates it and he wants it to take off. And so the Mars energy is sextiling the moon and Chiron. So it gives it some more courage and confidence to follow the dream, follow the bigger dream, even if there's a stop sign right now. Mars comes back to say, how much do you really want it? Because this is our desire to go for something. And maybe you thought you really wanted something and then realized over the course of the past few months that that shifted and it looks different now. The vision has changed. The vision has changed. And this Mars energy is squaring Uranus at 1 degree of Taurus and 40 minutes retrograde. And that square brings in the tension or the frustration, the breakthroughs, or that sense of impatience. This is a square where you are ready to get something going and maybe there's unexpected news, unexpected developments, unexpected something that causes frustration. But you're meant to physically work this through because Mars is the body. So if you feel any anger or frustration, work it through physically. Don't let it stay stagnant or stuck within you. Understand that it's meant to move, and that's the healthiest way to deal with that. And that there could be a sense of rebellion. Because Mars in Aquarius is rebellious and says, well, I'm going to do it anyways, and I'm going to go for what I want anyways. Now, the other thing to keep into perspective here is that Saturn is trining Uranus still. It won't always be the case because Uranus is in retrograde, so Uranus is going to be back into Aries pretty soon. And Saturn is moving forward. So they're not going to be in this conversation for too much longer. But right now they're supporting each other. And they're supporting each other with the structures of what's best for the long term, and assessing that your self-worth is really being valued and seen, that there's a sense of freedom here. There's a sense of I'm ready to do my own thing and be independent, but also that means I have to make some changes. These two are basically supporting the new structures in your life, and they're in this ongoing rare trine that's helping you stay grounded with the practical realities of what you need to do to make change that's truly based on what you want. Because Taurus is about, what do I want? I want this. And Saturn in Capricorn gives the structure and the fortitude to go for what you want. These two are in a more powerful conversation right now, this long term. And this full moon is asking you to check in on the progress you're making and what you're creating for the long term. And you could say, oh, I don't have it all together. I want it now. I thought it would happen by now. And then Mars chimes in and says, yeah, where is everybody? What's going on? Why isn't this moving along? I have this new vision. I know what I'm creating. I know how I want to work with the people. I know how I want to make the world a better place. And these two are saying, well, some things take time because these are earth signs and they deal with the physical realities of money and resources and how we build things and how we bring them together. So don't allow this full moon to make you too impatient because there's tension around the immature parts of ourselves that want something now versus the wise parts of ourselves that know that, some things take time and it's worth investing in that time. There's a sense of not giving up, of staying on the path and staying true to what you truly want. But this full moon could make you feel impatient. It could give that sense of urgency that if I don't have it now, I'll never get it. But that's not really true. That's just the aspect of your ego speaking and saying that I need validation. I need validation for what I want and where I'm going. Now I want to show you something else that's quite interesting about this full moon chart. And it's that many planets are in the very early degrees of their signs. Uranus is at 1 degree, Taurus. We talked about the moon and Chiron in the early degrees of Aries. Mars is at the early degrees of Aquarius. Saturn at the early degrees of Capricorn. And then these two, Mercury and the Sun at the early degrees. And then the North Node over here is at 2 degrees of Libra. So all of these planets that are in the early degrees, and this is a point, it's not a planet, are newly forming. They're brand new into these energies. It's like walking into a new space and you're trying to figure out, okay, what's going on in here? This is a new energy. This is a new expression, a new intention. So they're all doing this dance in the early degrees of their signs where they're gaining confidence in these energies. And they're having these conversations that help them determine what's true for me, what is meant for the long term, what does my ego mind really need and want, what does my emotional self believe it can create, and where am I making sure that my self-value is in the mix and that I know that money is a practical reality of this life, and how do I ensure that I make the money I need for stability even amongst all these changes. So a lot of the planets at these early degrees are just new. They're figuring things out. They're trying to get clearer before they keep going forward. After they move through the first decan, usually that's up to the first 9 degrees. Then they enter the 10th degree. Then they start to become more mature. They have more experience in the energy and they get more aware of what they need and what the intention is about. But that's important too, to know that there's a lot in this full moon about birthing something new. And even if it's not happening too soon or right away, to not give up and to not lose hope or lose faith. Now, the other energies we have in the mix here, we've got Neptune at 14 degrees of Pisces, and it is making still, I would still consider it within orb of Pluto, which is at 18 degrees of Capricorn retrograde. So both planets are retrograde. A 4-degree orb is a little wide for these outer planets, but they're close enough that I'll call it as part of their conversation. So they're helping with the transformation and letting go, so that you can continue to follow your own self-mastery. Pluto and Capricorn is your self-mastery. And then Pluto is making a lovely sextile to Jupiter, who's now at 21 degrees of Scorpio, and also supporting with the deep inner work that's confronting your fears, addressing your fears, that's making it clear that you're not to be held captive by the fears. They're meant to be changed and evolved. Now, I did a separate video for you on Venus retrograde because she's going to go retrograde at 10 degrees of Scorpio on October 5th. So right now she's in her shadow. And I did a separate video for you on that so that you can dive deeper into that part of your chart and what the Venus retrograde will mean. And overall, this full moon is understanding that we want something and we look for validation, but don't give up hope. Keep believing in yourself, because that conjunction to Chiron can feel hard and difficult, but the moon is the fastest moving, and it moves away quickly and it moves ahead and it keeps going, and it's actually going to help you find some new courage along the way as it moves through the rest of Aries. So this full moon is quite dynamic. It happens right after the equinox, and it's meant to bring you back to yourself, to check in with who you are, what you need, and to ensure that you can gather the courage and strength to lead yourself going forward, even though it can take time. And transformation is already underway, which we've been talking about all year. And please know that now that Mars is back in Aquarius, there should be greater clarity around the vision, the way you're headed, what really matters for the long term, and understanding that when it's best for you, it can be best for everybody. And as long as that is part of your intention, this full moon will help you light up the sky and light up the path ahead. I have more videos for you here on my new YouTube channel, and I also have a weekly podcast. It's live every Wednesday. You can find details below this video, and you can also find more information about my Astrology 101 introductory course if you'd like to learn more about astrology and your chart and how to be your own astrologer, how to really understand your energy. So thanks so much for joining me, friends. I'll be back here soon with another new moon chart to explore as we move into October. So I will see you back here soon. Thank you so much for your subscribes, likes, and comments.